Hola, jo sóc l'Eulàlia Febrer, d'Ahir de Jo. Arribem avui a la última càpsula de Gamesound amb un dels nostres participants més internacionals, el líder del grup de música de Riot Games, Toa Dunn. Ell, juntament amb el seu equip a Los Angeles, ha estat un dels artífexs de les propostes i escenificacions que veiem i gaudim any rere any a les finals mundials de League of Legends. Per suposat, Toa es troba també darrere de l'èxit de grups com KDA, que està format íntegrament per cantants virtuals. En aquest episodi mantindrem una conversa en forma d'entrevista amb el nostre protagonista per entendre millor els processos de creació darrere el videojoc, tant si digui League of Legends com Valorant, i aprendrem, a més, com l'equip de música es coordina amb molts altres professionals de diferents sectors per portar a terme propostes audiovisuals que aconsegueixen any rere any sorprendre i enamorar a tots els fans de la marca. Sense més dilació, comencem a endinsar-nos a les profunditats conceptuals de Riot Games. Comencem!
And overall, just a cool partnership, a cool experience to do something together, and that's really what it's about for us. For us, it's just trying to really touch people and also express ourselves in different kind of creative ways.
Hello, Toa. Welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bueno, chicos, y como mi compañera Lali tiene muchísima más idea que yo de música porque es doctora, es una doctora maravillosa y yo pues no sé tanto, pues le cedo el turno para este pedazo de entrevista y nos vemos luego.
Okay. So, how's everything? It's so nice to have you here wrapping up this event. How is everything around LA?
Oh, great. Thanks for having us or having me. It's been great, actually. Spending a lot of time with my family as well. Still pretty focused on a lot of things that we're just kind of working on as well. So it's an exciting time, but definitely different.
Yeah, sure. I know that our viewers are super hyped about having to know more about you and your job and everything that goes up behind Riot. So, of course, we will need to talk about that show that you put on during last year's Worlds. I mean, wow. But before this, we also have a few other topics that we would like to ask. So shall we get started?
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. So first of all, what's the role of the music team within Riot, actually?
Yeah, so with the music team, right, we're a full in-house music production team. Right. And so we focus on creating impact both in as well as around the game. This includes everything from songwriting to music production and composition, all the way out to live performance and marketing and distribution of our music itself. So some great examples are our yearly collaboration with esports on the world's anthem, as well as the live performance there. And then as well as kind of our virtual bands, right? The KDAs, the True Damages. And then we also look for opportunities across the Riot ecosystem to kind of collaborate with other product teams as well.
That's great. I mean, you have a really large, how do I put it? A really large public because you have a lot of different sections.
Yes, we kind of touch everything, so.
Yeah, so that's surely has a point of relevance and reference for the growing that has been happening behind Riot Music, right? I mean, Riot Music, I think I saw you say somewhere, wasn't that maybe that upfront, and it has been growing more and more. So would you say there have been any specific events that have encouraged this?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's definitely been gradual. Starting, and when you look back kind of our early kind of times back in 2013 or so, I mean, we had some of our first songs and our collaborations. Some of the things top of mind are Lucian, which was a champion released back then. We did a collaboration with Crystal Method, so doing kind of a cool song for that champion at that time, as well as our first music video, which was Get Jinxed when we launched her, and then kind of our evolving collaboration with the esports on the opening ceremony with the anthems, looking back at 2014 with Imagine Dragons. So it's hard for it to be a specific kind of event, if that makes sense. We've just slowly been kind of progressing and being more driven and excited to kind of find and explore ways to kind of express ourselves through music, and that's led us to now today, right, where we're doing things like KDA and True Damage, and whatnot. So it's been gradual over time, but it's been a lot of fun too.
That sounds like it. I mean, it looks like you're having a lot of fun, and that's where most great products come from, right? And it sometimes looks like you can't top it. You can't. I mean, how could you top it off more than the previous year? And then we had World's opening ceremony last year, which was mind-blowing. So you had a lot of great hits, and you have found a way to keep pushing it further and further. So what do you reckon was, for example, the impact of music on the World's opening ceremony last year? Where was its success to be found, let's say?
Yeah, I think a lot of the success with activations like that is really truly embedded in the collaboration, right? So we've had a great relationship with our esports team, especially the opening ceremony team. We just kind of often think of ourselves as almost one team just because of how tightly we work with them. And so I think the success is really how all things work together as one. So when you see the opening ceremony of 2019, right, when you see the holograms, you see True Damage there performing, you hear the music, and just the visual production, the sonic production, all of that has to come together to get that kind of impact to an extent. And I think that to me is where the magic happens. It's that collaborative effort across Riot that we're able to kind of focus and do something like that. And so that's what is, I think, really exciting.
Yeah, it looked fantastic, and on this making of that you released after the ceremony and everything, I think this that you are saying was really present, right? The collaboration of a lot of different professionals of different parts of Riot, and not from Riot also, right? It was a lot of people that created this magnificent ceremony that I'm sure everyone remembers and rewatches every now and then.
That's what we hope. I mean, that's really our intent with those things. I mean, we really wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for, our players and our fan base. That's the main drivers to have impact and to see that our players love, those type of expressions. So that's what keeps us driven to continue more, because it's not actually about how do we top it every year. It's just how do we create something exciting? How can we appeal to our players and our fan base? And then, hey, if it does top it, so to speak, I think awesome. That's an achievement. But we just want to really create a great experience for them.
That's awesome. And again, having this excitement to do something special, it's what actually makes it special, right? In the end, it's what makes it exciting. I mean, you could see it among the crowd on this ceremony. Everyone was losing their minds watching that. So it was great. Which brings us to the next question, which is in relation to emotions. So which emotions do you seek to spark through music in these events? Is there a specific goal behind your planification, or do you just go along with the creative process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance is being a part of the creative process. So to feel cohesive, right, you kind of, all people involved need to be aligned on really what we're trying to achieve, both from an emotional standpoint and just the overall creative standpoint. And so what's great is the music team ourselves, we're also really involved with the early parts of kind of discovery of what we're trying to do. Is it trying to be super hype? When I think of 2018, with the song Rise, and it literally feels like, you are climbing a mountain, right? That's kind of that feeling that we're kind of aiming for to an extent. And I think you feel that. And so the music needs to feel that way. The music video needs to look that way. And just the overall just kind of creative that's emanating from esports needs to feel that way. And so it's never just one emotion all the time. It's every year, you know, the esports team and folks get in a room basically and hash out like, what are we trying to achieve? And then we definitely want to support them as far as what they're trying to achieve from a music standpoint, from the artists that we choose, and then how do we help to kind of deliver a great performance.
Yeah, that makes sense, because these kind of projects are they are like a roller coaster, right? They are start at one point and then change and then go to somewhere else, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, that sounds like a really good meeting to be in. Actually, it looks like it has to be very exciting to be behind that planification.
Yeah, those are definitely fun.
So you have recently started associating songs to specific characters. So what was the idea behind this, and where did this come from?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, early on from a canon standpoint, right? So when you think of our world, which is Runeterra, we've been releasing kind of, when we release new champions, we have been kind of releasing them with kind of this thematic track, right? Kind of as our promo piece, whether you see it in the login screen and stuff. So we've been doing this for a while, of kind of associating sonic palette and music with a champion to help understand that champion from an IP standpoint and like even from a story standpoint. So we've been kind of doing that, but we've also kind of progressed right into then taking some of those champions, like for example with KDA, and just reimagining them as, like, you know, as a pop stars, for example. And what was really important for us is we wanted to stay true to who those champions are. For example, Ari, right? Like a lot of people really have a good understanding of who Ari is, and we want to stay true to that. And so when we reimagined her as, you know, this kind of K-pop or pop star, she still needs to be Ari, right? But just a modern pop version of her. And so this just really kind of emanated out of just looking for different creative explorations. You know, we've kind of tinkered in it in a few different ways, but it was just really exciting when we got to a point like, hey, let's do this, which was KDA, right? And then now here we are, we've done KDA, we've done True Damage. And when you really look at it too, right, we have, like I said, KDA, True Damage, you know, there's DJ Sona, which we did, back in the day. We have Pentakill as well. So there's this really kind of exciting almost music universe that exists. And it's a way for us to kind of showcase different, you know, our fandom for different music as well. And our players as well seem to like it. So it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dimension that adds to the character, right? I mean, it's like you say, it just adds another thing that lets you know more about that character, behind its story, behind its aesthetics. It's like you can really go deeper into who that character is, and that's what makes this characterization through music so special. Also, it's very interesting that you say that you reimagine some of them as pop stars, because that works so well through all your projects, right? I mean, it's like they have this double life almost, and they go out of the rift and become pop stars on stage.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a lot of fun to kind of be able to do that stuff. Like, we're definitely fortunate to be able to kind of play with creativity there. Yeah.
Great. So is the music that we can hear within Riot's games related to the competition behind the games? Or does it correspond to the lore, then, of each character and each environment? Do you separate those?
Yeah, there's definitely different use cases for music, which is also exciting, which is what's great about music, I should say, right? So for the game itself, like in-game music, with how League of Legends really is played, you know, especially for folks like me, I'm very, very competitive, which doesn't show how well I play it. It doesn't actually. But when you're playing something really competitive, it becomes very important to hear what's going on while playing. You know, I parallel this with, you know, with many professional kind of traditional sports, right? Like a basketball game or football, right? Music can play around, say, in the stadium, but when the game starts, the music tends to fade away, right? Because the players need to hear themselves communicating, you know, and you want to be more immersed as a fan of hearing, you know, the sneakers of their shoes or the kicks and the calls. And so that becomes an important experience and part of the game, which means music can't really be blaring in your face at that time. So people want it more far in the background. And that's just because, again, it's more of a competitive game. There are games that are more narrative driven, right? And have more immersive kind of world building where maybe it makes sense to have the music out. But for League, I think it tends to be more in the background. But, for many people like myself too, I like to get excited and get amped and get prepared to compete. So before I play the game, maybe it's warming up or any of that. We did an album called War Songs, right, which was pretty much get hype music to get ready to compete. And so again, that's a different use case for music, but to get, I think, like what you're talking about, if it helps you to get focused and get ready, there's music can definitely be an opportunity for that.
That's so interesting. And I think that you're right in that sense that during the competition, there is this communication issue that cannot be blurred by other sounds. But what about, for example, when you play alone from home, you are training? Do you think there are songs that may have an impact on the performance? On the performance of the players? I mean, for example, while they play, to get their minds on the right place, also before, during, and after the game, of course, or do they fit other purposes? I'm not talking explicitly about Riot music, but all kinds of music, right? So what role do you think music plays in that sense?
Yeah, I think for me, it depends on the person. I think, some people love to have that music, and it's just like, for example, if it just focuses them, it keeps them from getting distracted and focuses them, then it might actually enhance their gameplay to an extent, right? Because they're not distracted by other things, and it keeps them focused on the goal at hand, right? There are some folks, and I know with me too, like when I listen to music while playing, it can't be busy music. It can't be distracting. So a lot of when it comes to just how the melodies, I can't have a lot of runs and stuff like that. I get too distracted for me. I almost need it's okay in the background, right? So I think every individual is kind of different on how music affects them. And so, yeah, I think it just really depends.
Yeah, sure. We were talking about this before today, and it makes sense that you need to have this kind of not very explicit music, right, running through everything. So it actually takes your mind off the game and not more into the game. That's great. So do you have any special preference yourself for music that you like to listen to?
Oh, me, it changes. So I tend to have kind of two things going on at once all the time. There's kind of the music I'm super maybe what I'm working on or something, and I just really want to immerse myself in it. And so, as you can imagine, back in 2017, 2018, my Spotify playlist was just blowing up with K-pop stuff, right? My YouTube algorithm and all that, because I'd been listening to it, but I'd listened to a lot. And then, so I tend to be listening to stuff that's kind of exploring for kind of from a work interest, so to speak. And then I have music that I listen to, and it depends what I'm doing or needing it for, right? So if I need to do focus work, I have kind of playlists for that, and it tends to be very you hear a lot of lo-fi and kind of chill music lately that's going on. I've been listening to a lot of that just because it helps me when I focus in the morning. Or if I'm, going to work out, that's a whole, that's something like War Songs, a lot of hype music or whatnot. So, and then maybe I just want to reflect back to, the old days and the old 2000, early 2000s. I might listen to that. So that's what's great about music, right? Is it can take you back in time. It can make you feel certain ways. It can do a lot of really cool things. So I love working with music. It's just awesome.
That's great. I would love to discuss this for hours with you, but I'm sure that you have other things to do too. We are so happy to have you here and having had the opportunity to ask you these things. So I don't know if there is anything else you would like to add to this, or anything you think it's a good idea for people who want to get into the music industry in video games, for example.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to say anything, right, I think it's an exciting time with, video games, of course, but as well as music. I think it's an interesting time, right? And I think if you really want to get into the space, I love personally talking about kind of the overall, what I call the opportunity space for music and video games. I think you're just starting to see the tip of the spear of really what can happen in this space. And so, yeah, I would say whatever it is you really want to do, in music, I think there's probably an opportunity how it works in games, and especially if you love playing games and you love music, like that's, I don't know, to me that's just like the spot. That's where I'm at. That's where a bunch of my, like most of my team is at, and so it's just it's good times.
That's so much fun, and I think very inspirational for everyone that's listening and for all the presenters today, because we have been touching so much of this stuff that that's awesome. I would like to thank you again, Toa, for being here. And yeah, I think we can invite Lara back here.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Thank you, Toa. It was such an inspiration. I have to say, I love the playlist that you have created in Spotify about Valorant. And all the music and sounds in game, I really do. I love them.
I will tell my team that, because I didn't personally curate it, but I've got some highly talented individuals that worked on those. And so that would make them super happy to hear that, because they definitely put a lot of effort in those. So.
I listen to them a lot. So thank you very much for your time, Toa. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lali. Y yo creo que aquí vamos a ir despidiendo porque ya nos hemos quedado sin tiempo. Vamos a llegar al final del evento. Así que, chicos, well, goodbye. See you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
La voluntat de crear un producte que sigui atractiu pels fans de la desenvolupadora fa que Toa i el seu equip a Riot Games hagin anat guanyant cada vegada més notorietat dins l'entorn audiovisual en què es situen, específicament musical, a l'entorn dels videojocs. Quina millor forma de tancar aquests capítols que amb una experiència directament des de dins. Des d'Idojo esperem que l'experiència de tots els ponents que han passat per Gamesound us hagi despertat nous interessos, noves curiositats i que us hagin animat a prestar més atenció a l'element sonor darrere els vostres videojocs preferits. Quin ha estat el vostre episodi preferit? Heu après alguna cosa que sigui totalment nova en relació entre la música i els videojocs? Feu-nos-ho saber a través de Twitter emprant el hashtag Gamesound. I no us oblideu, per últim cop, de seguir-nos a Idojo a Twitter, Instagram i Facebook a partir dels enllaços que apareixen a la pantalla. Esperem veure-us a tots i totes molt aviat en properes edicions. Com sempre, amb més música i més videojocs. Fins aviat!